Hi guys, and welcome to Life of Candy. Today, we're going to talk about one of my favorite topics, sports. And this disclaimer, the opinions in my video are opinions from me. No, I'm not a sports analyst. No, I never went to school for this. This is all about heart. This is my feelings, my personal views on sports from my perspective as a fan and a supporter. Okay, so let's start with hockey. The reason why I'm starting with hockey is because I don't see a lot of hockey. There's not really a buzz for hockey anymore. I remember when I was growing up as a kid, there was movies like The Mighty Ducks, and The Mighty Ducks created a demand for hockey. And back in those days, it was the era of Wayne Gretzky. Yes, and during that time, everybody wanted to be a hockey player. I remember my first introduction to hockey was Nintendo. I got to play a Nintendo hockey game, and that was so fun. So I hope that one day hockey comes back bigger and better than ever. Please don't let go of hockey. Okay, moving on. The next sport I want to talk about, something that I'm very passionate about. Basketball. Basketball is definitely one of my favorite sports. I love playing it. I don't want to keep saying but how do I feel about basketball? Wow. I love it. I remember looking up the origins of the sport and seeing that the start of the sport, if you have a chance, look up the origins of basketball. It's very interesting. But I'll tell you my start. When I was growing up, there was something called the Rucker, and it was in New York. And the Rucker was it was street ball on a different level. You had a whole bunch of hip hop stars mixed with athletes, and they came together as a collective and just put on a show. And that was part of our culture. We got to hear rap music and R&B music fused together with real competition. The best of the best coming through and playing basketball. And you got to sit down and see real athletes coming and coming and being amongst the people. And then you have the celebrity level, but then they are humble enough to be around the fans and the supporters of basketball. And I never got a chance to go to the Rucker, but I got to see it on TV. And I've watched so many episodes of shows that talked about the Rucker. And I remember growing up in that environment, that era was so fun. And I feel like I miss it. I really do miss it. I remember seeing Jay-Z had his own team. And then Beyonce came and she sat amongst the crowd. They always were a part of basketball. Hip hop and basketball was always fused together. I remember Kobe's game. I remember Fat Joe's game. I remember it had so much pioneers of the basketball sport that came to the Rucker. And then from the Rucker, there was And One. And One Sports. You had Skip to Malou. You had Spider. You had so many good basketball players that made you want to just watch the sport because they came with technique. They came with a certain swag. They knew how to capture the audience's attention. And it was organic and authentic, so you wanted to watch. And then they had the documentary that followed And One Sports. And then they the marketing was so good because they had the jerseys and they had the sneakers. And then from and1 we had Hoop It Up. And Hoop It Up was just another environment where people came together as a collective and just played ball and got to participate in watching the athletes. And that environment for sports was so powerful and so exhilarating. The Harlem Globetrotters. The Harlem Globetrotters. What can I say about them? The way they also came with I would consider them the OGs of kind of like street ball. They came with and from my opinion, they had the gimmicks. They came with the gimmicks, behind the back, spinning the basketball on their finger. They made it entertainment. They made it entertaining from their perspective. So each, from and1 to the Rucker to Hoop It Up to street ball as a whole, that environment, to Harlem Globetrotters. Then the origins of basketball. Oh my gosh, the pioneers of basketball. To be able to pull tape and watch old athletes like Dr. J. It's so Julius Erving, yeah, so much powerful men. And then the next era with Larry Bird, and you had your Michael Jordan, you had Magic Johnson, you had Charles Barkley, you had Shaquille O'Neal, you had Anthony Hardaway, you had Allen Iverson. The evolution of basketball, and then you had other players like Dirk. You had Kobe, rest in peace, Kobe. You had one thing I want to say about Kobe, from what I watch, Kobe, his love of the game is undeniable. He poured his heart and soul into basketball. He wanted to bring all the players together and make them better, and Kobe learned a lot from Jordan, and you could tell Jordan was his big brother. And see, the difference between Jordan, a lot of people, I had a chance to see him play growing up as a kid, and to see how dynamic his game was. But even though Jordan was great, you can't forget Pippen, right? You can't forget the supportive men that made the Bulls, kept the Bulls on the level of, the level of competition. I felt that it made basketball so fun to watch. Then you had my Knicks. I love the New York Knicks, from John Starks to Patrick Ewing to Anthony Mason. And then you had Allen Houston. And at the time you had Pat Riley as the coach. And then just being in that environment. And then from the Knicks, I ended up falling in love with the Magic when Shaquille O'Neal and Anthony Hardaway were playing together. From that, I ended up falling in love with the Boston Celtics and Paul Pierce and Rondo. Yeah, it was. I'm not sure if that was the first big three, but it was a lot of buzz around them coming together. And at first, the league didn't like big players coming together as a collective to play together. But I would disagree with the league. I feel like that leveled up the level of competition. And I don't want to spend too much time on basketball because I really love it and I'm passionate about it, but I do want to touch on all the sports. So I'll close by saying, we all know that A real basketball fan understands Magic Johnson's role in the Lakers just as much as Jack Nicholson, right? As a fan. Just as much as a John Starks to the New York Knicks and Patrick Ewing to the New York Knicks, as a fan of like Whoopi Goldberg, and I would be doing the Knicks a disservice by not mentioning Spike Lee. Spike Lee to New York Knicks. You know, Leonardo DiCaprio to the Lakers. We know the fans of each team. Real basketball fans know this. And just like, it's so much players. Muggsy Bogues to Charlotte. The greats. I'm trying to remember. I think about the dream teams of yesterday and how impactful they were on the world. You know, if you were selected to be a part of the dream team, that meant something, you know? And we were so proud to see the dream team on McDonald's cups, you know, during the Olympics. And we got to collect these cups. That's part of our culture. You know, that's part of sports. That's part of our history of sports. And I want to talk about the slam dunk competition. And the slam dunk competition, allowing players, no-name players, to come and showcase their skills, but still having the element of celebrity in it, where celebrities... Okay, I was talking about the slam dunk contest. Vince Carter, what he meant to the slam dunk contest, he's a dynamic player. And when Vince Carter came up with the moves during that period, he dominated the slam dunk contest. The slam dunk contest, in my opinion, and this is my opinion, has never been the same since a Vince Carter. And I'll say this, from watching all these years of the slam dunk contest, I feel like the league has not done a good job at putting the right commentators or the judges. I feel, for my opinion, that the NBA hasn't done a great job at putting the right judges to judge this slam dunk contest. I feel like it should be better. They should be better at the rules. The reason why I say this is because I feel like you are very lenient when it comes to the dunks, and I feel like you don't have a set basis for the dunks. Like, you don't have levels to the dunks, like technique. You know what I mean? To structure the slam dunk contest better. So you have dunkers from different levels coming together, and at the end, the best of the best of those levels come together and dunk. I feel like if it is reconstructed differently, it would be more interesting to watch. Also, I feel like the judges shouldn't see each other's scores. I feel like it's too much. From my opinion, I feel like there's a lot of talk between the judges, so you tend to be biased in the scoring. So it takes away the significance of your score, because it's like you giving tens for everything. You know what I mean? So, and you're not saying why you're choosing to score in that way. So I feel that, why not have Vince Carter be a judge? Why not have some great dunkers come? Why not Jordan come and be a judge? I'm just saying, I'm putting it out there. Okay, so I want to move from basketball to football and what football meant to me. Now, I had to learn about football. Okay, so my brother and my father have influenced me when it came to sports based on what they like. My dad and my brother liked the New York Knicks, so I felt like I had to jump on board and, you know, support the Knicks. But after that, I started to learn about the game on my own. And then I picked my own teams, and the Orlando Magic became my team. From there, with the NFL, oh, by the way, my brother and I used to collect basketball cards and baseball cards, and we had Topps cards, and we used to keep it in a laminated binder, you know, and we brought the little inserts. But we used to go on Flatbush and go down to this little store, a comic book store, buy comic books, basketball cards, baseball cards, and just come back. And, you know, we collected it for a while. Unfortunately, we don't have that collection. But for football, I would say that a lot of women would be interested in football if they understood the football. For me, my love of football started with Madden and gaming. And I started, the first move I learned was the QB sneak. When you were able to set the plays, right? That was my move. So I kept doing the QB sneak until I learned other plays. And then I started to watch the Giants play. And at that time, Eli was in charge of the team, basically. And I enjoyed it. The level of competition was so grand. And from Eli, I moved to, I was a Giant fan for the longest. It took me a while to finally be open to another team. And Cam Newton was the only reason I kind of jumped ship. And I'll tell you why. When it comes to heart, I felt that man has a lot of heart. He has a lot of soul, and he has a will to learn. So I started to pull his tapes. I started to look at the origins of Cam Newton, and I saw that his father, I think his name is Cecil, he was so instrumental in the development of his son's football game. And not just Cam, his brothers as well. I'm going to close by saying that I'm going to have to include a part 2, but only if you guys want it. So let me know if you want me to continue, because part 2 will be me going into football and going into track and going into tennis and golf and the Olympics. I love sports, and I love everything to do with sports and swimming and skiing. If you are interested in my part 2 of this video, please make sure you like, you subscribe, and comment down below. See you next time. I hope life is kinder to your family today and every day. See you next time. Goodbye.